There were some questions on other issues in groundwater. The first one was about the types of groundwater. Should you call it phreatic water or confined water or aerobic water or anaerobic water? Now, the situation is that of course you have different types of waters in phreatic water or confined water, that's deeper. But that doesn't say anything about quality. When we talk about quality, we talk about aerobic water, anoxic water, or slightly anaerobic water, and anaerobic water. And of course, it is normal that aerobic water is more found in phreatic aquifers, and anoxic and anaerobic water is more found in confined aquifers. So that is about the types of water. Then there was another issue about the concentration, for example, of methane in anaerobic water. They said, how is it possible that you have methane in anaerobic water because the saturation concentration of methane in water is very low. So when it's linked to air, there's no methane in the water. Now that's exactly what happens. And what happens is that in the deep confined aquifers, there's no possibility for exchange of water with air. And that's why you can get accumulation of methane in this water. And the moment that you pump that water up, you have to remove this methane. And that's what you do with aeration. You give the possibility of the water to aerate, or you aerate the water, and the methane can be blown out of the water to the air. So exactly what you do in aeration is having an interface between air and water. Now then was another question about what's happening in an aeration tank, for example a tower aerator. And in the tower aerator we have a situation that we remove CO2, and the people said, yeah, what are we doing? Are we avoiding corrosion or are we promoting scaling? Now, in fact, what you're doing is both. If we look at the Lindquist in the Tillmans curve, we have an equilibrium situation of CO2 and bicarbonate. And the moment that you have water that is very aggressive, normally that water has a low bicarbonate concentration and a high CO2 concentration. So this water is really aggressive because this is equilibrium. So tower aerator or other aeration steps can promote the removal of this CO2 to equilibrium. And the situation that you have very hard waters with a lot of bicarbonate, what can happen is that the water is in equilibrium, but when you have a tower aerator, this concentration, the CO2 concentration will go down, and then you have possibilities for scaling, so removal of bicarbonate in reaction with calcium. So it is both depending on the quality of the water. Now then the last question, I think it was about, let me see, about the RQ ratio. That's the ratio between the flow of the air and the flow of the water. And the more, the higher the flow of the air is, the higher the RQ ratio is. And the better you have exchange between air and water, and you have more possibilities to remove air or gases from the water to the air. And that can happen, for example, in a tower aerator. where you have a water flow, an airflow for example, and a water flow. When this airflow is, for example, 10 times the water flow, then the RQ of this system is about 10. So these were a little bit the questions that we had. I hope that I could explain how it works, and if you have more questions, please put them on the board.